talking to Miss Gonzalez right now. She's a counselor at O Health. Alright, so what encounters have you had with discrimination?
In terms of when I first started working my first job out of college, when I first was hired, first thing that someone said was, "Gosh, you look too young to take this job."
And how did you cope with the situation?
I don't think that created anything for me, because I felt like I had to prove something more. That just because someone looks young doesn't mean that they can't do the job.
Did you inform the person who said that? Like, what?
Why would you say something like that?
Yeah, or just, did you, sort of prove to them later on?
Oh, yes, I did.
Pretty much, right.
Yeah.
And what would you do to change that? What do you think you can do to change the view of people, what they think about your ages, or?
I think people just need to be educated and see things for themselves in terms of, regardless of how old someone is or how young someone is, that if they're capable of doing something, that basically that's going to prove itself.
So, go ahead. Oh, so do you not think this can be changed, really? You think there's always going to be, people, well, there always are going to be people like this, but do you think there's any way that these people could ever be taught differently to...
I think that people, when they learn some kind of ism, whether it's racism, ageism, whatever it is, it's a taught behavior. It's not something that someone just is born with. I think that they've been exposed to some kind of isms, and that's what they learn. And so that's where I think that it can change by the way someone is parented, how their parenting style is and how they approach the situation when they're dealing with their kids. Like, if a kid says something racist or something in terms of age, like, "Oh my gosh, that person's old, they probably can't do it," correcting that behavior, because then, when they're young, they'll learn over time.
And I have another question. This has to do with, have you ever witnessed discrimination? Well, we all witness discrimination against others, but in a situation in which you have actually stood up for the person?
Absolutely.
Being a counselor and all.
Yes. One, being a counselor. Two, when I was, even throughout my life, whenever some kind of race, either any kind of ism, whether it's racism or whatever, I've always believed that you have to stand up for what you believe in, and be able to say, this isn't right. I've always done that. Sometimes it's gotten me in trouble, but yes, I've always done that.
Because I know there's some people, actually, we interviewed another teacher, and he was talking about how he just had to settle, as in, people settle, but with that, in terms of trying to fix it and trying to educate people to try to do better, do you think settling, would you encourage that? Settle down for the way people discriminate you?
I wouldn't just settle for it, in my personal opinion, because I just think that if something isn't right, you have to stand up for what you believe in, regardless. And if you just settle, then nothing's ever going to change, because eventually everyone's going to settle, and then nothing changes. So I think that you have to say something, and you have to keep teaching people and informing them so they become more aware.
Even if you're at risk of getting in trouble with someone else, or?
Yeah, I do believe that if it's not hurting someone, you're not actually physically hurting someone, or you're not hurting yourself, then I think you should be able to stand up for what you believe in and protect those around you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gonzalez.
No problem.